Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is timing. We know that everything is timing, or so they say. And we get to talk about how to align with perfect timing, how to manage our impatience around the timing of things, what it feels like to wait, and just explore all those avenues. But before we get started, let's take a minute or two to get present. Let's take a deep breath in through your nose and hold it. And imagine clean, crisp oxygen flooding your lungs, flowing into your bloodstream, nourishing all your cells, all your organs, and bringing vital life energy to your body and being. And as you exhale any tension, stress, negativity, fatigue. And now let's take another deep breath in through your nose and hold it. This time, imagine brilliant, bright light lighting you up from the inside out, illuminating, electrifying, and energizing all your cells, all your electrons, all your molecules, and lighting you up from the inside out. And as you exhale any remaining stress, tension, negativity, fatigue. And now let's just gently press our palms together and softly, softly, softly rub your fingers against your palms and feel the deliciousness of that sensation and bring yourselves present right here, right now. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So today we're talking about timing, and they say everything is timing, right? And so often we get impatient, and our tendency is to want to push the river, so to speak, to be trying to force things to happen, to make things happen. And it's a delicate balance between making things happen in the world and allowing things to unfold. And I'm wondering what that's like for you to find that delicate balance. What's it like for you to be wanting a certain outcome and to be feeling like you're waiting? The reason that this came up for today's topic for me is that I do feel in my life right now, I feel a bit in a waiting mode, waiting for certain things to come to fruition. And the question is, how do we be in this process, this interim process, maybe like this transition process, where some things are ending and new things are beginning, and kind of waiting to see how that all wraps up, how it all unfolds, and finding a place of balance in that kind of, sometimes it feels like purgatory, right? Where we're in between, we're in the in-between, where we're neither here nor there. And we've been talking about change and expansion and the unknown, and this is another aspect of navigating the unknown with times of transition. Like, we know where we want to be, or where we intend to be, or we expect to be, and we know where we are, and there's a gap between the two. And how do we navigate that transition with grace and ease, and patience and allowing? Because I don't know about you, but there have been times in my life where I've wanted an outcome, I've intended an outcome, and I had tried to really push the river to make things happen. And I noticed that the more I pushed, the less things happened. And I don't know if you're aware of that, and that dynamic in your life as well, where no amount of pushing is going to make something happen if it's not yet the right time. And so then it's a question of how do we reorient ourselves and keep ourselves centered and present and responsive to the whatever opportunities or events are unfolding. How do I mean, the answer, as always, is being present, right? When we allow ourselves to be present, then we can be receptive and responsive to the demands of the moment. But I think sometimes our desire for having things be different gets in the way. Sometimes the intensity of our intention can drive us into a place of frustration. And of course, the more frustration there is, the more resistance there is, the more resistance there is, the less movement there is, or the less things can really flow. So navigating this place of desire, and presencing ourselves to that in the context of time is often a challenge, because we frequently want things to be happening faster than they do. And I think that coming to a place of letting go. Yesterday we were talking about outside the box, and letting go as well as expanding to include. And so if we can allow ourselves to be present to our frustration and the feeling of that, again, from this meta place where we get to observe that frustration rather than be that frustration, then we can recognize that we have an option not to be immersing ourselves or creating this resistance and tension in ourselves, this frustration that is really just impeding things further, right? Things have their own time. We say everything in perfect timing, right? It doesn't necessarily feel that way. It isn't necessarily the way we want things to be. It's not necessarily the way that we would ideally have things unfold. But it seems that, if we can allow ourselves the grace to be present to what's present. I think that that's probably the challenge with the frustration is being in a moment and kind of rejecting that moment and saying, I don't want things to be the way they are right now. And I get that the contrast of that is important, recognizing the desire for something different then can allow us to be refocusing our attention to the manifesting of that desire by presencing ourselves to the positive experience of having that in the moment, experiencing whatever it is that we're desiring, experience the having of it now, whether it's physically manifest in form yet or not. That's a way that we can be supporting our intention without creating additional resistance. It's this wonderful tightrope to find a way to be present to the having of the accomplishment of the desire, and also being in this moment with whatever it is not yet physically manifest. So good morning, Bernadette. So good to have you here. We're talking about timing and how often things don't unfold in the timing that we would prefer. And when that kind of situation occurs, how do we navigate the frustration that often arises around that, the frustration, the impatience that can arise around the at least momentarily unfulfilled manifestation of a desire. So I think in looking at my situation, you know, I know that certain things are going to unfold that will open up new possibilities that I've been anticipating for a while, that I've been waiting for a while, and mostly have felt okay about that. And then periodically I have moments of impatience around it, and around not being there already, so to speak. And what I realize is that that the time between now and then gives me an opportunity to get my house in order, so to speak. And that's physically and metaphorically. That's actually and metaphorically, to give myself time to get my house in order. And I think that that's something that we can all be looking at. Bernadette says, I believe the universe dictates when. That's kind of what we're getting at. Exactly. I also believe if we do not handle things when they arise, the universe sends it back to us in a different form. Oh my gosh, Bernadette, so true, so true. Particularly with emotional issues or relationships, or, you know, when issues arise and we choose to ignore them. My experience is the first time the universe whispers, and each time we ignore something that needs to be dealt with, it comes back louder and louder over time, and until sometimes the message can be devastating and extreme. So, you know, like over the years, I've certainly learned to listen a lot more to messages from the universe, for sure, because in the past, I learned some very, very hard and painful lessons due to my not listening. And I think that along with the listening, what comes is the need to interpret the message correctly. You know, sometimes what I notice is that, because again, with this idea of timing or wanting a certain outcome or desiring a certain outcome and having it not present yet, sometimes we, as I have in the past, push to make something happen. And in addition to pushing to make something happen, we often choose to ignore the signs along the way because we want something to be the way we want it to be, not the way that it actually is, or the way that it's actually unfolding. So Bernadette says, sometimes we need to be better prepared personally also. 100% true. Good morning, Dennis. And yes, so I think that that's very much the case, that we might be getting the message. That's what I mean by getting our house in order. Dennis, we're talking about timing, and how sometimes it can feel really frustrating that things aren't happening in the timing that we want them to happen. And so we tend to push or get frustrated. And what we're looking at is how to allow ourselves to pay attention to the signs along the way, the messages along the way, and allow ourselves to get our house in order, to find patience within ourselves, to be present to what is existing without creating greater resistance to the experience. Maggie says, good morning back, Bernadette. Thank you, Dennis. Dennis says, interesting topic per usual. Glad to hear that. Thank you, Dennis. I appreciate that. So the thing is that I agree with Bernadette in saying that the universe has its timing for things. And if we can operate under the assumption that timing is perfect, that was an affirmation of mine for forever. My timing is perfect. That the more we get connected, the more we get aligned, the more we are present, the more we can be in the flow. And also, if we notice ourselves getting impatient, if we notice ourselves trying to push the river, maybe we can, and that's the big thing, if we notice, right? That's not always the easiest thing, but if we can then allow ourselves to become present to the opportunities in this moment on the way to wherever we want to get, like that we don't get to decide how it happens. We get to intend for something to happen and to arise in our lives, but things happen in the most mysterious and unusual and interesting ways so often. Good morning, Josie. So good to have you here. We're talking about timing and allowing for and navigating the impatience and frustration that can often arise when things aren't happening in the timing we desire for them to be happening. And my thought is that it does give us an opportunity to, as I said earlier, put our house in order. And in my case, that's a literal thing. It gives me time to put my house in order. And I haven't necessarily had the motivation to put my house in order, but I do have that opportunity, and probably that's what is important and available at this moment. As I wait for the unfolding of things that I know are on the horizon, and I realized just in saying that I think I've been in a mode of waiting in a lot of ways, and it occurs to me that rather than waiting, I could be in a place of preparation, as we all could be, so if we're, for instance, and this is more abstract, but so many people are in a place of manifesting a relationship. And maybe the thing to be doing on the way to manifesting a relationship is to be preparing oneself for that, to be seeing oneself in relationship, and how or what's available in growth on the way to that, on the way to manifesting the relationship. How can I better prepare myself so that I will be a good partner, and I will be I will be drawing the person that would be the best person for me in partnership to me. So Bernadette says things will happen when they are meant to happen. And that's the thing, is surrendering to the perfect timing of things, and not being in a place to say, I want it now. Like, I don't know about you, but I have not in my life necessarily been the most patient person to be waiting for something that I desired, that it was kind of, there were an immediacy about and an urgency about my desire. And that has shifted over the years to allow me to have more grace in waiting for, or in allowing life to unfold. I think there's a difference between allowing life to unfold and waiting for it to unfold too. Bernadette says, LOL, patience can be a virtue. Yeah, I know that. And I've been cultivating it over the years. And I wonder also, I think that there's a place where I look at, I wonder, is patience or is patience complacency? And there may be a line there. I mean, I don't think patience is complacency, but I think that it can be, that it's always a balance. Like, where do we take action? How do we take action? And what I actually believe very, very deeply, and not that it's true, but this is what I believe, is that it's not about action, it's about beingness. It's about how we be in the world. And so it's not so much the action we take as our way of being. And that's where the resistance comes. That's where the openness and the allowing comes, is in our being. And so being impatience is kind of a doingness, right? Or it drives us to doingness. And when we have impatience, it's resistance. It's creating a resistance to what's here, just by definition. And with that resistance, resistance breeds more resistance, right? Unless we get to a place where we can step back and recalibrate to connecting to the flow, which is connecting back to alignment with ourselves, right? And then that is maybe the truth of patience, is when we're in that alignment, and we're able to be present. And maybe even patience dissolves then, because it's not about being patient. It's no longer about putting the attention out to something beyond. It's being present in the moment. And Bernadette says, when you wait for different outcome that's presenting itself, can be when you wait for different outcome that is presenting itself, it can be complicit. I'm not sure what you mean. Yeah, I don't know how to interpret that, Bernadette. I'm sorry, but when we are, maybe you mean that if we're waiting for a different outcome than is what's present in the moment, maybe we're not being who we need to be in order for that outcome to appear. I'm wondering if that's what you mean. So, and by that token, being complicit in the outcome not presenting itself, maybe. Anyway, yeah, I thank you. Okay, so Bernadette says, yes, that's exactly the case. So good morning, Lisa. Welcome. So good to have you here. We've been talking about timing and pushing the river versus patience and alignment and presence, and how when we're in a process of waiting for something to unfold, even the waiting for it can create resistance. What we get to do is to allow ourselves to experience the experience of having it, even though it's not physically manifest yet. And when we can allow ourselves to feel that experience of it, then that's shifting the frequency that we're vibrating in, and thereby also shifting the dynamic of attraction. So I get to remind myself of these things. Lisa says, I hate waiting for anything. I was just saying earlier that I have had times in my life when I'm not the most patient. And I've been cultivating patience over the years. However, um, I think that when we're facing big change in our lives, that in that process, in the time that is elapsing between now and whenever that thing is manifest, that we get to, again, I'll say it, get to put our house in order, whether it's our emotional state, whether it's our literal house, whether it's relationships, communications. We get to make preparation. And I think there's a difference maybe between waiting and positive expectation. I'm not sure, but it's something to entertain. We can look at that together too. So I think that the key to timing is alignment and releasing whatever resistance we have to the moment being as it is, and to allow things to unfold while creating a fertile environment for them to occur. And yeah, I think that's it for today. But as always, I so appreciate your engagement in these morning musings and looking at these different topics that we come up with and are able to share together. So I really appreciate you. And Lisa says, I'm in a growth period, but it's slowed almost to a stop, and it's so frustrating. So that's really what was prompting this conversation, Lisa, is that I found moments, like there's a lot of change that's on the horizon for me that I've been anticipating for a while, and I've had moments of frustration that it hasn't shown up now. And so that's really what motivated this conversation, is to be looking at how the frustration itself sets up further resistance, and that what we get to do is shift our beingness around our desired outcome, to be able to be receiving. Because when we're pushing, that's an outward energy. We want to be able to be receiving what it is that we're manifesting, right? And with the growth period, maybe it hasn't really stopped. Perhaps what's happening is it's an integration phase, and maybe there's a way to align with yourself to recognize that there may be things going on under the surface, Lisa, that you're not aware of, that are helping you to really manifest this growth, that, to be putting your house in order internally. That may be the case. Bernadette says it forces us to reevaluate what is meant to happen, opposed to what we want to happen. There is that, because maybe we get an outcome we weren't anticipating, for sure. Waiting too long can change outcomes that were meant to be different from what the universe lines up for us. So it is a dance. It is a dance. We're dancing with the universe, and maybe we're dancing with our higher knowing. And that's where this allowing comes in, versus trying to push the river, as tempting as it may be, through the frustration of not having things happen now in the timeline that we want them. So with that, I'm going to sign off for the morning. I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here each weekday morning on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page. I am so grateful to you, and to Ruth Anderson, who is the founder and genius behind all the Enlightened World network properties, Enlightened World Network Facebook page, Enlightened World Living, EWN Monuti Earth. And please check out the other awesome programming. It's so good to be with you. As always, wishing you a wonderful, wonderful day in perfect timing.